Hi.
Hi. How
Hello.
are you?
Hey,
You
Blue.
did it. Hey. Oh, that's right. It's so funny. People, it's funny. I can always tell when I've met somebody by the name they call me.
Yeah,
So that's awesome. You did it right. You're here. It's so exciting.
I
I'm so
did it.
excited to have you.
I I did the
Yay!
technology.
Yes, you did. So good. Um, all right. So we have so many people joining us now because they're so excited to see you and talk with you and all this
Hi.
stuff.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
I'm going to leave the comments on because it'll be really fun to just let them give you love
Oh, dear God.
and ask
Okay.
you questions.
All
It's
right.
going to be awesome. I would say, as people are watching this live with us, if you have questions for him, you can do that in one of two ways. You can either put the question in the question, like the comment box, and we can, I'll scroll back up to it, or you can ask questions with the question card, and that gives me, I get notified and I can bring up a question card so we can ask him stuff. Because it's definitely, I like to say that these conversations are always like, not just between you and me, right? Like it's between all of us, and they all want
It's
to
for
say
the
hi to
world
you. And
now.
it's for
Nothing
the
is
world
private.
now.
Hey, everybody
Exactly.
still joining? Hi. Hi. We're gonna talk about
Yay.
acting stuff in a second. Hello
Oh yeah, yeah.
from
We're gonna talk.
around South America
See,
and
we've
other
already got two
places.
question cards. I'm so excited for
Oh,
people.
really? Okay,
Oh
cool.
yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
It's probably going to be a lot, especially as we go through some of the topics that I want to talk about. But
Okay.
anyway, let's start with this. How you doing? And how's quarantine going? And all
I'm
that.
okay. I'm
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
good.
It was taking a lot of adjusting, like for me, just like everybody else, and I'll have like a few days where I'm fine and other days where it's like this existential collapse happening inside where you're like, oh, the world feels like it's ending. But,
Yeah, I
it's
hear
like
you.
that cycle. It's like 3 days good, 1 day bad, and now it's a lot better. And then the show came out, and then the response was so overwhelmingly positive, and it was amazing, and like overwhelming, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to just see it all at once. It's like somebody pointing a flashlight in your face and just turning on the light at full brightness.
Yeah.
In a good
I
way. It
just
was all positive, so it's amazing. So thank
That's
you,
awesome.
everybody.
I just got done watching the whole season last night.
Great,
I like had
great.
watched several episodes and I paused it and then I was like, oh, I need to see sort of what happens with this character, and what a great show.
Thank you.
We're gonna totally get to that. But for those people who are joining who might not know who you are, tell us a little bit about you. How long,
Okay.
like where did you start? How did you get to LA? Are you from here? Like I actually don't know that answer.
Oh, you
So
don't? Okay,
no,
great. Well,
yeah.
we can start. We can start with the easy questions.
Yeah.
I'm from New York. My name is
Oh.
Eddie. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City. I moved to Los Angeles about 6 years ago, and I didn't study acting as a kid. I wasn't a theater kid, and I wish I had more time. I was very involved in sports and clubs and trying to get good grades and all that stuff. And I wish if I had like a free extra semester of none of that other stuff, I would have auditioned for the school play, and I wouldn't have gotten really much of a role. I would have been happy with like a supporting ensemble or some sort of thing where I'm moving around cardboard trees or something. I would have been good with that. And then I would have had a chance to shout one line, that would have been cool. But so I didn't do theater as a kid, and then I went to college, and like I was very set on either studying finance. By
Oh.
the way, by the way, it's finance. It's not finance.
Finance, not
It's finance.
finance.
Yeah. Because that's what everybody said. Like you go to college, you get a good job, you get a stable thing, and a stable gig, and that's how you succeed. And so acting was something that I dared to fantasize about,
Mm,
but it was a fantasy because you know how when you're a kid, you're like, oh, what would it be like to be an actor? And everybody has that crazy thought for a second, but a lot of people don't
mhm.
explore that, and I for some reason malfunctioned and explored it. And so I didn't study finance. I didn't study I didn't want to be a guidance counselor anymore. I went into
Mhm.
communications and public relations,
All right.
which I still feel like is helpful now.
Oh yeah. I was like, that's a great choice.
It
Absolutely.
it'll always be helpful no matter what I do. Like if I quit acting tomorrow, I could still use those skills and apply it towards whatever the next thing is
Mhm.
I would like to think. I don't know. But it was during college is when at the tail end of college, I decided to it was like 2 weeks before college graduation. I booked a local electronic store appliance commercial, like non-union, local,
That's
little gig.
amazing.
Yeah, we would shoot in the store at like call time 11 p.m., shoot until
Yeah.
8 a.m. The crew would have to strike everything so they could actually open the store for business.
Right, right.
But that's how a lot of those stores do. Like Best Buy, Targets, they all shoot overnight because you can't do it during the business day.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like, it was on set where I was like, oh crap, like this is what I want to do. And it was just a
That
commercial.
that literally happened to me, except it wasn't a commercial. It was like one of those reenactment shows.
Ah,
And I had never done any on-camera stuff before,
yeah,
and I had only ever done theater and that kind of thing. And even the theater stuff I didn't really do until college. So I'm like,
yeah,
I'm very much like that. And I got on set and I was doing the thing, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do.
yeah,
Like it was like this thing, you know?
yeah.
So that's really cool that you know, kind of cut your teeth on a local commercial. That's hilarious.
Yeah, like low stakes and people saw it locally, like that's cool, but I I just kind of came alive under the hot, sweaty lights, and it was just one of those things where I was like, this is I'm very I'm happier here than I have been in a long time. So
Aw.
and so it was like 2 weeks before college graduation, and I had to like come out to my parents and say, hey guys, I think I want to be an actor. And that was like, that was nerve-wracking because my mom was like really supportive. My dad was concerned because he was like, but Eddie, they don't hire Asians. And I was like, yeah, no, don't worry, Dad, it's changing. And this was like years ago.
A
And
while
so
back.
I
Yeah.
had to be like, no, Dad, I promise it's changing slowly but surely. And then fast forward to now, and finally
Hmm.
it has changed for the better, thankfully.
What
It
is
has gotten
your
better.
what is your heritage? Like what are you? I don't even know where you're.
Yeah, I'm Chinese.
Chinese.
Uh,
Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah,
I told my
specifically
husband last
Hakka
night, I was
Chinese.
like, I think he's either Chinese or he's Korean. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
So yeah, that must have been an extra hard conversation because I know from my, you know, Asian friends, like often you have a couple of career paths that are sort of meant for you, you know, from your
yeah.
parents, and acting is not one of them.
No,
Usually.
you have
Yeah.
to, I mean, from a parent standpoint, I totally understand. And I had, there was a little conflict between my dad and I for a while because what I took as disapproval was really just his concern for me. He was worried about me,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time to mature and understand like, oh, my dad's worried about me. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then thankfully I started to book stuff, and then he started coming out and he was like, okay, cool. Like he can keep,
Yeah.
doing this, and and even for a while, like, because it's really hard. Like, you'll book jobs, and then and in between those jobs is a large gap, and you're kind of like, well, what do you do in between? You still have to survive. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you moved here to LA 6 years ago or so.
Yeah.
So kind of what did you do right in the beginning? Because I feel like if you've only been here for 6 years and you're already like on a Netflix show, that's an amazing trajectory. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Trajectory. So, and I know that you've had lots of other stuff in between. I mean, it's just built, built, built. And so I'm curious, I know a lot of people would be, you know, who are newer actors or have been here for a little while and they're getting discouraged. Like, kind of how did you do it? So you got here and then what happened?
Well, the way that I did it is just that. It's just the way that I did it, and it's going to be different for everybody. And I could never say that, oh, well, what I did is going to work for everybody else. Like, I could never, say that.
Yeah.
Is that Ken? Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
That's my buddy. When I got to LA, I took a few well, prior to moving to LA, I moved in LA in January in 2014, but just a few months before that, I signed up for a few casting director workshops where you visit from out of town, from like New York, and a bunch of people fly over, take some workshops, meet some casting directors, and I rented a car and drove around just a little bit and got a sense of driving on the highways here, and got a sense of like, what would it be like to live here? Because visiting LA is always great. Like any friend or family member who I've ever had come visit, they love it. They have such a great time. The sun is shining, the weather's good, you can get in and out. But living here is a very different animal for a lot of people. And I was open to the possibility that I might hate living here versus just visiting. And if I did, that's okay, because I could go back to New York and there's an industry there. And I was already slightly kind of auditioning for things here and there, but I never got entrenched. I never established myself as a New York actor. I hit the commercial casting offices a lot. Like I was familiar with that circuit, but TV, few and far between, I just wasn't ready. That's all. It's not to say that LA is better than New York, but for me, by the time I got here, I think I was just more ready for the opportunities that came my way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you probably also, I mean, we met in class,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we
Yeah.
found a really good class.
Yeah.
Are you still going to class? I don't know.
I'll drop it now and
ago.
again. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like, what was it, a few months ago, just before this pilot season started, I would drop in abilities here and there, and yeah.
Shout out to Billy O'Leary. So
Shout out to Billy O'Leary.
Yeah, he's awesome. I like to describe him. I'm like, he's not the teacher for everybody, but he is the teacher for a lot of people, and he's amazing. And
I tell you what, the things that I learned in that class, like how to audition and like how to take my auditioning to the next level.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was just biting on co-star auditions, and then in class, like you cover the series regular, you cover the guest stars. But it's really you have to train those weights and build the right muscles for that sort of thing. You know?
Yeah. I remember watching you in class when we were together and thinking then, I was like, oh, this guy's going to go somewhere. I just knew it.
Thank you.
I just knew it. I was like, this guy's so talented.
Thank
you. Yeah, so you got in class, you did reached out to commercial agents. How far were you here? Use your words, Melissa. How long were you here before you were able to get your theatrical agent and that sort of thing, or did that?
It took me a while.
Yeah.
I know that for a lot of people, there's this pressure to be like, oh, I have to get an agent. And once I get an agent that's going to fix all my problems and I'm going to book work, I'm going to do all the things that I want to do. And I have people who have had agents for as long as I've known them. And they never loved their agents, or their agents and them never clicked the way that they had envisioned, or the way that they hoped, right? And so then you leave the agent, or the agent leaves you, and then it's like dating, right? People just keep hopping around and around. I had one agent meeting in my entire time in New York. They didn't sign me. I was super green. Looking back on it, like there's no beef as to why they didn't sign me. I get it. Then I moved to LA, and then through casting director workshops, I was taking those because I was like, how do I get seen? How do I get known? How do I meet people? So I was taking casting director workshops, which was very in vogue at the time. Now it's not so much. And then I made a friend in one of those classes, and she referred me to her manager. That manager I'm still with to this day, and we're talking 5 years ago. And then over time, I started to get more traction, getting more auditions for anything like commercials and like mainly co-stars, the occasional guest star, which I was still pretty green. You know, my foundation for auditioning technique wasn't quite there yet. Oh, I see a question. No, I don't know yet. I honestly don't know. I know a lot of people asking.
Everybody watching, because we have a lot of people that are like, hi from India. Hi, guys.
I know.
We are definitely going to talk about the show, so don't worry. I just wanted to give some background because I am curious. Because I like, a lot of people, I know now a lot of actors who are really starting to book, right? They're starting to book those series regulars or like recurring guest stars, or they're starting their like guest star journey, and they're starting to they've had a couple of those now. And one of the questions I always like to ask people is like, how long have you been here in the way that, and been doing things in the way that you are? Because I think a lot of people move here and they think it's going to, they're a failure if it hasn't happened within 1 to 2 years.
Yes.
And honestly, the average answer that when I ask that question to people who are booking is, they've been working at it for at least 7, sometimes up to 10, 11, 12 years. You're a little bit so I would take your answer at 6 years and be like, wow, that's even better, but it wasn't like year 1 that your booking never had.
Hell no. I was not ready at all for that. I wouldn't have been. And even if I did book it, I don't think I would have been exposed as a surface level actor. I think they would have looked at me as a package and would have been like, okay, he's got this look, he's got this feel and type, but he just doesn't quite have the chops. Yeah. And then I would have squandered further opportunities. And even now, that's still a concern. We are always working to make sure that we can get the catch and hang on to it, Yeah. But I didn't know. So when I met with my manager, the goal was to sort of let's accrue work, build up, and then have something to show for when it's time to hunt for agents. And then I did a showcase, and then I got to meet with an agent out of that. And then the agent in that meeting didn't make me feel very good.
Oh no.
I felt very low about my lack of credits, my lack of experience, my lack of training and taking proper classes here. Like he was saying, you should be here. You should be taking these classes. These classes that you put here are no good. Like this he kind of made me feel like it was a joke. And then I came out of that meeting feeling just bad about myself, and I talked to my manager. I was like, okay, I think I will not be getting an agent for a little while. And then she was just like, you know what? It's okay. We're gonna keep working, and we're gonna wait for them to knock on your door. And I was like, okay, that's a bold move, but yeah. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this advice, remove that chance of that negative energy in terms of making me feel bad. It wasn't like I had a great meeting and they said like, you know, we love you and we think you're ready, but we don't have room for you on a roster. That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
I just felt bad coming out of that meeting. I felt like I got chewed up and spat out, you know?
Yeah. Well, what a gift though, that your current manager was able to like turn that around and really advocate for you and really like take you and say, we're going to develop this stuff so that you are, that the package that you're offering is good.
Yeah.
And that they were able to also say, listen, everyone's got to start somewhere. And we're, you know, like, it's just, I just hear stories about managers who either don't really care or they're not, you know, like they're just sort of not really checking in or there's not good communication. So it sounds like you have somebody that's really on your side.
Incredibly.
Right?
Oh my God. She's my number one. So like,
Yeah.
she keeps me positive. She keeps me from walking off the ledge, you know, with my insecurities and anxiety, and I don't know where I'd be without her. I love her to death. But yes, specifically her giving me the permission to say, hey, it's okay, man. Like you don't, this isn't going to be the be all end all answer to your thing or whatever.
It never is. Yeah. Also, so did you feel like after that meeting with that agent who was mean, that you were able then to shift your mindset a little bit?
I let go. I let go of result. We cling on to the end result, and then when your path isn't through the woods, isn't showing the destination you're looking for right away, you start to confuse with what you're doing and where you're walking as far as, is this wrong? Just because I didn't see the destination yet, and you don't know. So
it's a big mindset, like a big thing with me and all the people that I bring onto the live show, like mindset, because it's so important, you know? And it's like when you marry a mindset that is working for you, plus the talent, plus, you know, continuing to sharpen the craft, it's just a matter of time then for being successful rather than will you be successful.
And it's like I said, it's like a thing that you just have to kind of trust in terms of like, but it's like it's a combination of a few factors, including you have to trust. You also have to be willing to take adjustments and adapt along the way. And so some people are kind of like, I've been doing these auditions, I've been killing it, and I'm still not booking. And then they start to get bitter, and then they stay swimming in that, and it eats at them from the inside out. And I was, so like, I'll probably be, from this point on, quoting Audrey Helps Actors podcast a lot, because it's one of my favorite things. And
love it. Love her.
She's amazing.
Awesome.
One thing that she said recently that I recently listened to that I love so much that stayed with me is like, because this is where I was at that point where I started to feel good about my auditions, but I wasn't booking things, and that started to get a little frustrating. Last year I had a big chip in my shoulder because I got close to some things that would have been really big for me. And then fast forward to this past, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 months where I was having more consistently really good quality auditions, but wasn't booking, but I wasn't so bitter about it, and I was fine. I was at peace with it. And the thing that Audrey pointed out was, she said, you have to be really content and at peace with going up to the plate, hitting a home run every time, and then just being okay with just that and walking away and not booking. Like, you have to be okay with churning out amazing quality auditions consistently on the regular, not like decent, amazing, decent, mediocre, bad, decent. Like, has to be amazing all the way throughout. And so I've talked to friends who get frustrated when they churn out a very good audition and then they don't book it. And it could just be simply because they weren't right enough for the role.
Well, it's interesting. I've been having, so I have a friend named Jon Snow, who I feel like I should introduce you to him because he's awesome.
The warden of the Lord Commander? Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. No, but he's an actor, a good actor friend of mine. And he has been coming on bi-weekly to talk about auditioning for casting directors,
Yeah.
specifically because he has spent the last 3.5 years being a reader in some of the top offices in the thing.
Cool.
And he's been a part of like over 10,000 auditions or something as a reader with people. And he has seen like all the way from like co-stars all the way up through network tests for famous people that you would know.
Yeah.
And the one thing he's like, you guys just need to know, you have to bring in what you're going to bring in. You have to show leadership. You have to kill it. And the reason you get picked or don't get picked has nothing to do with you, right? It honestly doesn't. It has not, I mean, it's a little bit about talent, but it's more about he goes, the reasons that people don't get cast in something are sometimes so arbitrary.
It really is.
And then actors like tear themselves up for no reason. Just be solid and know that what you're really doing, I think, in these auditions, and what it sounds like is starting to pay off for you specifically because you were able to knock it out of the park so often, is that you are creating in their minds, you're creating a relationship with these offices, and they know that, oh yeah, Eddie's going to bring it every time. We just have to find the right thing for him. But like, we know that he's going to come in and kill it. And so you're building that structure in their brain so that, and the reason that you're getting called in so much is that you've booked the room, and the job is just, it's just the frosting on the cake, right?
Yeah. I'm thankful to say that I have a few of those offices now where I've been to them consistently, and they pretty much have an idea with what I'm gonna. They more or less know what they're gonna get from me, but hopefully I can surprise them with a little bit of extra zest or a little bit of extra pop in, whether it's comedy or a little bit of grit, and if I'm doing something dramatic. But like, that would be the goal. If there's something to strive for, if there's some sort of tangible end result, even then end result doesn't mean anything. It's an ongoing thing. If there's something to strive for, it's to be able to get consistently good quality, high quality auditions consistently with the offices that you're going into. And that's what creates longevity, and that's what creates opportunity. If you freak out too much about the one opportunity that you had and you blow it on nerves, they can see that. That's okay. Don't think that like they're not gonna. Hey Ben, love you, buddy. Don't think that you've squandered your opportunity forever. But just know that they're actually very sharp with the way that they're assessing your audition. It's not just about you or just about how nervous or how you flubbed the line. They can trust, like, okay, we're getting a seasoned professional person come in and come close to knocking out of the park. And even if you don't hit a home run, if you can hit a great RBI, I love sports metaphors. If you can hit an RBI and you don't book it, that's fine, because they know that you're quality, and they're going to bring you back, and they can trust that because you are a professional. And that's the goal to establish. But obviously, the challenge there lies in, well, I can't do that if I don't have reps. So then people start to spin down on themselves.
And that's a lie. It's a lie that having reps makes it easier, but it's not the end all and be all, especially if your reps are not getting you out. They don't have the relationships with those people. So reps are an important piece, but they're not the only piece, right?
And that's the thing. Like for some people, they feel like their reps are just there to collect the check and then cut out the actor's percentage of it. For other people, their reps are for a lot of let's get this straight. A lot of reps are really doing a lot of work. We just don't see it. Yeah. But people feel a little bitter about it just because they're not seeing the result of auditioning and then booking and then getting paid. So it's one of those things where it's like, just because you don't see it happening right in front of your eyes doesn't mean the result isn't there. And that goes the same with hopefully the forward moving progressive track that you're on in terms of going towards your goals. And that also applies especially for if you have a rep who's busting their ass for you and working for you for free, and you're just not aware of it. You don't know how many submissions they've made for you in the past month, and then if you ask for a submission report, hopefully it's pretty good, and hopefully you'll be like, okay, great, like they're working for me. Yeah.
So it sounds like a couple of things are key to your success that is still building and still snowballing and still, like, I just see big things for you. But it sounds like,
thank you.
So it sounds like excellent craft and being professional, not just a hobbyist, but a professional, and what all that entails.
Yeah.
And then also mindset, right? And communication skills within the people that you're meeting, and working with your manager and all that stuff. Is there anything else that you feel like is like a total key to having some of the success that you're having?
I find that I think people equate hard work to intensity inside the actual audition.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is, first of all, you should absolutely be prepared for your audition. If you're not, you're far more likely to either get nervous or lose your way or not have the job booking or the callback earning choices that you could get.
Mm-hmm.
There's a correlation I find between effort, but also having a sense of ease at the same time. You have to work with a sense of ease, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why when you see some actors muscling through their auditions or their class scenes where they're just, look how angry I am. You see the tension, you see them trying to act at their idea about
Yeah.
something like an emotion, like anger or sadness or whatever, or playing their idea of what it is to be a smoldering, sexy detective, on network TV. There has to be a sense of flow. There has to be a sense of
Oh
play
no, he's buffering. Oh,
when you do it. Oh, am
say
I
say
back?
yeah, say that one more time. So
There has to be a sense of ease and flow and play when you're doing it, and I think the attitude has to be like, I'm gonna kick ass in this audition.
mhm,
But that doesn't mean that when you're inside the room, that doesn't mean you have to be holding on to it so tight. You have to be
right.
willing to just leave yourself alone and really just, once you put in the work, don't be afraid to just let it go and just say the words.
Yeah.
And say the words. Going back to what Billy talks
Yeah.
about what, I, I love the way he broke down when people can't help but give you the general vague note of, oh, just say the words. What
Mhm.
they're really saying is zero in and focus the laser and be specific with the meaning of what you're saying behind the words.
Mhm.
And that's what people meant when they said, do less,
Yeah.
be simple,
Yeah.
don't be so big,
Yeah.
you know?
It's just connecting with that reader, that scene partner to emulate the kind of connection you'll have on set when you book the job.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you just trust that the camera's going to be in your face and you don't have to be screaming, you don't have to be acting so hard,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
cool. Ah,
yeah.
well, you're totally killing it. All right, so let's get to the meaty part because this is what people want to know about.
Oh boy.
And I'm actually also very curious. I don't think many people, especially actors who haven't really gotten there yet, understand the process of what it looks like to book such a big role from
Neither do
like
I.
that first from that first audition to like the testing and all that stuff. So can you walk us through sort of how that all went for you, how you booked Never Have I Ever?
I will rewind it a little bit from the
Perfect.
Never Have I Ever standing point.
Perfect.
From that point in time. The casting directors had brought me in for a pilot the year before. They were really championing me and really pushing for me for that role. I went in several times for it. It didn't work out. I was pretty much like the number 2 choice on it because I went in there and just started to just do my thing and leave myself on. And I was just like, this is me. This is what I feel I could bring to this.
Mm-hmm.
They went with another guy. That's okay. But what happened in the meantime was the casting directors really started to know, and they became fans of me and what I do. And a year later, no, not a year later. Was it a year later? No, not even. Several
Mm-hmm.
months later. Because
Mm-hmm.
pilot season that whole thing was happening through like February through March. And then in June, I get this audition for Never Have I Ever. They said it's a recurring guest star. For,
So this is June last year?
last year.
Wow. Okay,
May
so
or June, something like that. Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised that from the time you got that first audition to like having a finished product was less than a year. That's pretty fast.
It felt pretty quick. I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised. Yeah, when I heard that it was coming out at the end of April, I was like, "Oh, that's sooner than I thought."
Wow. Yeah.
I would have
Okay.
thought it would have made for a great summer release, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but it worked out perfectly the way
I'm
it did.
kind of like, but isn't it great that it came out during quarantine?
Yes.
Right? Because everyone's
Yes.
home and they can all watch it.
It's very odd how well that worked in our favor, and just in terms of just having people to just have time to watch it. Like that was very helpful.
Yeah.
But also it's worth watching. My personal bias aside. But yeah, casting brought me in. They knew that I was right for the role of Steve. I went in, a bunch of guys that looked like me.
Mm.
two of my good buddies were in there. It was my friend, then me, then my friend, and we just sat in the waiting room waiting for each other. We went and got coffee afterwards.
That's
Because
awesome.
that's how cool the Asian actor community is. We are very supportive of each other, and it's really cool how we can just go hang out afterward after we just competed against each other. But that's the other thing. Is like as you spend more time, you start to realize that you're not really competing against. You're literally competing against other people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it and you see how unique other actors are to you, you realize you're not really competing against them, because there's nothing you can really do about it if other people, if what the creator had in mind for that role just wasn't you. There's not much you could have done. You always have to be as good as you have to be as good as you can be.
Yeah.
But past that, then it's not about you anymore, like we said before. So they brought me in to read for this. They put me on tape. They sent that tape to producers. About the next day, hey, Eddie, the next day, or within a day or two, I get an email from casting who emailed my agents, who emailed me saying, hey, your tape's going to producers. And I was like, what? Like, holy
Yay!
crap. Like, that's exciting. Yeah, it was really exciting. I wasn't sure, what that could mean. Like, because television casting can be so fast now. Was there a part of you that was like,
was there any part of you that was like, I'm not going to get too excited about this because I've
Yes.
been here before?
Always.
Yeah.
Always, because I was on hold for one of those Chicago shows last year.
Oh,
Yeah, or like they pinned me. So I was kind of like, well, if I don't book this, like hopefully I can book the other thing, and doing it like playing a firefighter would be amazing. Like that'd be so.
And
cool.
You're definitely built for it. We're going to talk about your fitness routine here in a minute because it's crazy.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I was in this unique place where I was kind of like, okay, I'm not going to hang on too tightly to any of these jobs right now, because if I don't get it, which happens statistically, the far majority of the time.
Yeah.
And I had exhausted so much energy from feeling the grief of loss of a job several times that pilot season. We're talking last spring. I was number 2 on 3 network pilots.
Ooh.
I had never screen tested before, and I had 3 in about 4 or 5 weeks. It felt back to back to back.
That's
I went
amazing.
From CBS to NBC to ABC. It was really cool. And then I didn't get any of them, and it was just it was like that down the dumps feeling of like, what am I doing? Am I cut out for this? Am I going to be stuck in whatever plateau that I'm at for a long, long time? And you just don't know. And I had a chip in my shoulder, like I said, for a couple of weeks. And then I shook it off. So then when it came time and I found out that I was pinned for this, or like that my tape was going forward, I was just like, okay, hold on, just stay cool, like stay calm. We don't know anything yet. And then they said that I booked it, and then that was really cool. That was like a nice sense of relief, and it was very poetic that casting director who did bring me in for this also saw me and pushed for me so hard, supported me. Only a few months prior to that, and then that pilot that oddly enough, it's funny how things turn out. That pilot didn't get picked up. And then I booked this, which is a smaller role. It wasn't the lead role of a network show, and then this thing took off, and then thankfully the response has been amazing. So it's weird how things work out.
Well, it works out exactly how it's supposed to work out, right?
Yeah. Right.
And I feel like for the actors who are listening to this, I think one big key takeaway that I don't want people to miss is that you booked the role because you're wicked talented, but you also booked the role because you created and maintained a wonderful relationship with the casting office, right? Like the more people who know who you are and who like your work and like you and know that you're a good human, that you're not weird and all that stuff, like the more you can create those relationships, the more you will have longevity, like you were saying, in your career. Because then they can go, cool, we hired him, he killed it in this show, he's probably going to be really good for this, let's bring him in, yep, he's going to kill it, let's book him.
It's kind of like, I don't know, I love some heist movies and all that stuff, and like some actors are hired guns, and you're there for a job, and people know your assets and they know your skills, so you're contracted for a specific gig. In this case, it's a recurring role, so I'm not one of the leads, but I mean, if you look at the formula of the way certain roles are performed and portrayed, for example, the series regular versus the whatever, if I love using network, like Law and Order.
Yeah.
Mariska Hargitay and Christopher Maloney they're often more often than not really the emotional ones, not unless the story is really going towards like their personal arc.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, they're the ones who stay calm, cool, collected. They're exceptionally good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones they're the vehicle for which the audience goes through the journey of the story to see what happens, and then it's all the side characters who have to come in, and it's like you're going through an amusement park ride, and there are hired people along the sides of the thing to either throw paint at you or release the water cannon or hit the button where you drop, or you know what I mean? Like that's what our job is as a guest star.
Right.
To add to the amusement park ride, whereas the series regular leads are the roller coaster car that are taking the audience on the journey, and you're following their journey. The story that you're going is through the eyes of the roller coaster that you're going on,
Right.
with the smoke breathing dragon and the mummies that drop. Like those are the guest stars and the co-stars who add to the experience and tell the story of what's happening.
Right.
So
right.
we have to see where we fit within that assembly line.
Boom. Yes, people need to get that. And I think if you can get that principle and you're going in for those co-star and guest star auditions, if you know where you are, like what your purpose is for the overall arcing story, and that your job is to affect in some way those leads. Because I remember Billy talking about how we don't tune in to shows to watch the guest stars. We tune in to watch the trajectory of the series regulars.
Right.
But the guest stars alter those trajectories in certain ways.
And the guest stars in some cases can really win over the fans and be the fan favorites. Like look at Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So many of the guest stars are the fan favorites.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
to the point that they might get their own storyline. But the
Yeah.
point is like seeing like you said, how seeing it's your job to suss out. Hi Amy. It's your job to see how you as a guest star co-star affects what are you doing for the lead to get from their point A to point B in that scene, you know?
Oh, Dalen. Hey, Dalen. Yay. Dalen is another guy who was in Billy's class with us, or maybe still is going there, and he's also, I feel like, kind of killing it. He's doing really well too. So, hey, Dalen. All right, so you booked the show.
Yeah.
And you were, how many episodes were you in? Like 6?
I did 4.
Four? Okay.
4.
Feels like you were in there more than that because I kept thinking about you. I remember the first time you popped up, I was like, oh, Eddie, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But so you booked the show. How did they shoot that? Was it block shooting or did they do it episode by episode?
Yeah, it was pretty much block shooting.
Okay. So for those of you guys who don't know, Eddie, can you explain block shooting?
I'll let you explain it.
Okay. My understanding is that you're going to shoot, instead of shooting it like successively, like we're going to shoot for this week or this 10 days, we're going to shoot episode 1 and then we go and successfully do it. You're shooting multiple parts from different episodes at the same time.
Yeah, so we would couple it like 1 and 2, 3 and 4,
right.
5 and 6.
Right,
so,
because they're probably like, from a producing standpoint, it's probably like, these are the locations that we have to be at, or these are the actors that are going to be involved, and let's be smart about how we're going to do it so that it can be a little more efficient.
Yeah, it's amazing how much thought and planning and logistics have to go into production.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about the industry is like it's not just for the artsy, touchy-feely creative actors like us. It's also there's a huge it's such a team sport. You need everybody to get in there, look at the lines on the sheet of paper, and figure stuff out and plan these things. Because
I think many people don't understand how much work has gone into getting it even to the point where you get to walk on set and be the person who's saying the line.
Oh yeah,
years.
By the time I walk on set, I have had the easiest job out of anybody. I was busy at Crafty, eating snacks all day. I spend a lot of time eating snacks. That's what I do that.
That's hilarious. So what are some of the things that you learned on being on such a big show with such a cool, unique cast, and the showrunner is Mindy Kaling, and it's like, wow, what are some of the things that you learned that you may not have even known before, or having done even, smaller jobs?
I think a lot of the things that I saw or realized were all things that I may have like talked about or heard about, but then you see it and you experience it for yourself. For example, like I think it's really important to be able to, as an actor, be malleable and be light on your feet, and not just literally, but like in a spiritual, mental kind of way, be light on your feet. In other words, be quick to make adjustments wherever necessary. So I prepared my audition a certain way. I got to set. It wasn't quite what the tone was, and I didn't know that. And it wasn't until I showed up and they were like, "Hey, we're going to try something a little different." And I had a hard time. I was a little stiff that first day, and I was a little bit nervous. I had to settle in a little bit, and then we made the adjustments, and then that's like what you saw. And then thankfully, editing is, you know, an actor's best friend, and they can cut around what if there was something that they didn't like, you know, they cut around that. But you know, that's again, that's why it's a team sport. Like, you have to trust your directors and your team and the EP. And Mindy was there on my day one, and then after that, Lang was there with us every day, hands on. Also, she was very pregnant during the process because she's a boss and she can do this job. Like, they can do this job. And
Yeah.
amazing. Two boss ladies, and they're incredible. And then they would come in. People like the EPs would come in and be like, "Hey, for this specific moment, let's try this," and they knew exactly what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And we as an actor have to like sort of be ready to just take that and roll with it as best as you can. Again, we're a hired gun, so if somebody says, "Here, I'm going to take your gun out of your hand and then give you mine," you have to shoot with full accuracy with that. How can you do it? Mm-hmm. Or if you're a guitar player and you're only used to your specific guitar, somebody gives you a different guitar, like that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good question. My friend Gary asked, "Was there a table read ahead of time?"
There were, but I wasn't there for that. That was for up to a certain number of people on the call sheet and higher, like the series regulars and stuff like that. I wasn't there for those.
Okay.
Because I was a smaller role.
Sure.
Yeah, but they definitely had it though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So because you were a smaller role, but you were on set a lot, and you were integral to the plot, I think. What was it like watching the women who had the weight of the whole show on their shoulders? You know, like the lead actors. Did they? What was it like observing that? Did you pick up anything from them, or was it?
They handled it with such deft and poise. It was It was really interesting because I'm watching this as a little bit of an outsider, because there were a lot of scenes that I was not in, but I was able to just stand and watch because I was on set that day and I had to be ready by the end of the day. Porna is a veteran actor. She's kind of everywhere right now, as she should be. Mm-hmm. Then you have Richa, who's been working. Mm-hmm. You know, she's got some experience. I think this is her first like series regular lead role. So she's coming with that experience, like stepping into her biggest arena yet. Then you have Mai Chee, who plays Davy, the lead. Her first ever really credit anything.
She killed it.
And they're all killing it from their own respective starting positions as far as whatever their resume had or didn't have leading up to this point. Yeah. And they're just taking it on and rolling with it and flowing with it, and that was really cool to see. You know. But I just seeing how, I don't know, just seeing them just be like professionals, like at all times. It was really great. Yeah. And they're lovely, lovely people. So that's always nice. So I think a lot of people, I've seen it actually when I have booked gigs in the past where people get cast, they killed it in their audition, and then they come on set and they get an adjustment after their first take and they fall apart. Right? Yeah, that wasn't too different for me.
Tell us about it. I'm half kidding. Like mental game you have to have a strong mental game, man, when you're there. I would imagine, because if you get that and then it doesn't, like, you're like, ooh, I didn't do that very well, and then you get that adjustment. Right. Whew, what was that like? How did you handle it? I think for the first day I was a wee bit intimidated because Mindy freaking Kaling is standing right there, and it got to the point where I was like, I keep looking over to Video Village to see if she liked what I was doing, and I was like, stuck in my head. I was like, dude, you got to stop. Like, you just got to just trust that they'll come talk to you and adjust you wherever necessary. And it's not because you're doing a bad job. It's just a creative process it's not like, oh, wrong answer, smack on the hand with a ruler. Yeah. It's more like, hey, let's keep playing. Let's just keep playing. We're refining it. We're finding it together. And I think that's the reminder, that the lesson that I got out of that, you know? Yeah. So
and it's one of those things where, oh, I just saw a remark about seeing or your
Your
scene's
scene
cut, and
getting
that's one
cut,
of the
yeah.
things. And that's one of the things, like, you never know why. Like, we don't know for a fact why some things got cut and some things stayed and some lines. Like, I had a line that got cut, and I really just think either because it wasn't working or because or maybe just for
It may have
time.
been for time. It may have
Easily could have been
been,
for time. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah, but the day one was just, I was a little bit psyched to be on set for my first time, and then we got it, cool. And then when I came back, I started to really find my groove and really just uh, feel loose and
hmm
settle in, you
hmm
know?
Did you ever, I feel like, especially as actors who are growing and they're building their careers and stuff, and the higher they go, they tend, when they start to get on big sets, to feel like the actors they're working with are like these people up on pedestals, and they don't realize that we're all peers. I totally agree with you. I say it all the time that this is a team sport, right?
Yeah,
And some people like Mindy Kaling, right? So Mindy Kaling obviously has more experience than all of us, and she's, but she's been doing it for a long time, and she's built that. But she is still a peer because she is a storyteller who is writing things, and we are the people who can then express that idea or that story she's trying to tell. And it is not that she is above us. She might have more experience, more whatever, but if you can, I feel like you have been able to approach some of this stuff going, you know what? I deserve to be here. I
yeah,
deserve to be here. And
that's what you have to tell yourself.
yeah,
Yeah, they
right.
hired you.
They hired you. They liked you. They want you to be part of what they're building, their story that they're building.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's also going back to mindset. You have to be willing to sort of be like, it's not from a place of entitlement. It's not from an unearned place of, oh, I just deserve to be here, when you have had jack shit training
mhm,
or have
mhm.
only watched a few movies of something. You're like, oh,
Sure.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about once you put in the work and once you actually book the job, they told you belong here. You know why? Because they're paying you. If they didn't think so, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then it's on us to step up and be like, okay, I'm going to raise you one and say, fuck yeah, I belong here. And
Yeah.
I'm going to show it to you again and again.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that doesn't come without some bumps in the road,
hmm
but to really match that and then raise the bar for everybody. And that's, I guess that's what people talk about when they say like, oh, so-and-so pushed me to be a better actor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those things where as I start to have more fun, I gain confidence.
Oh, yeah.
It's a snowball effect for me when I don't have confidence or if I'm not having fun. So that's another reason why I crack jokes a lot in either in class or on set, is because I'm doing it to keep myself loose
Yeah.
and be show support to the environment. And also if I need to keep my mouth shut, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's too many people talking and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Not too many cooks, but a lot of cooks, because on set you require a lot of hands and a lot of people on deck.
hmm
So sometimes I'll just shut up and just, if I have a teammate or a castmate sitting next to me and I feel like I'll be like, I'll just check them like, hey, am I giving you what you need? Can I do anything different? How are you?
Yeah.
And I'll just kind of give them that little bit and just give them just a moment of reprieve for us to pull our heads out of the technical aspect, because shooting is so technical, and
hmm
sometimes a set can lack that theater freedom and intimacy that we love so
hmm
much as
hmm
actors or even as audience members. A film or TV set kind of lacks that sometimes, just by the nature of the job. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
be vulnerable, be amazing, be truthful, and then you have like this thing here, and then you're only allowed to turn your head this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a little bit of it. Kind of sucks a little bit of magic out of it. Like, I had that on my first day. Like, I'm kissing Richa and her head's against a tree, and then the way the camera is stacked, I had to pull back and react to her saying, I can't date you anymore. And I'm kind of like, they're like, no, you have to actually turn your head you have to pull
Yeah.
back first and then
Yeah.
turn. And I'm like, okay, so there's choreography. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it took me a few tries to nail that.
Yeah. Well, as it should, right? Like, you're not
And
going to
then
get perfect at it.
there's a mark at my feet, and then there's a tree branch, and I'm trying not to trip on the tree branch so I can hit the mark, because that's where the camera is. And if I miss it, we've blown the shot,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
all those things.
All those things. And also
Yeah.
then like doing all that stuff in the midst of trying to be vulnerable and trying to, like deliver.
But then you have to be
emotional
truthful,
qualities.
honest,
all the things.
spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all just takes practice, right? It just takes
Yeah.
practice. And that's why, sometimes going from is building up those skill sets with those smaller roles or with the things that you're
Yeah.
making yourself or doing those self tapes or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we have about 8 minutes or so left.
Sure.
I wanted to talk to you because so after the show came out and I follow you on social and stuff. It seems like you've been getting some excellent feedback and people have been, I think I saw one where you were like, people have been telling me, thank you for portraying this interracial couple. Cause I'm in that relationship and I never get to see it. Thank you so much. What kind of feedback have you been getting? And how has that made you feel? And how special is that to you?
It's been a lot of that. And, it's surreal. Like it's hard to believe when you see it. There's a little bit of there's a lot of imposter syndrome in the past week and a half. It kind of feels like all these strangers are telling me that they love the show and that they're fans of the character and all that stuff, and I'm just kind of feeling like I auditioned for a thing and I did a thing. Thank you. Thank you. Is the honest sort of reaction. It's a little bit overwhelming. It's like, again, like somebody took a flashlight and just shined in your eyes and you're kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
It's amazingly positive and overwhelming in that sense. It's hard to explain how amazing that feels to be able to give that back to somebody, to give them the feeling of, hey, I felt seen, I felt heard, I felt like my experience is often made to be a punchline, or just doesn't exist in media. And then to have that chance to give that back to somebody, like last week there was one of those days where I was dealing with some privacy issues and it was a little odd. Check your privacy, guys. Hide your information. And I started to get stressed out from a lot of the attention and the whatever, and I started to feel like, oh no, I can't. People look at me a certain way, and I can't. You start to your head starts to race as an actor. So that's why I'm very forgiving of actors who start to have a public display of an episode of behaving certain ways, whatever, and I've become far more empathetic and almost defensive of it,
Well,
that's not me, but like, going back to, but somebody wrote that message about how she's South Asian and her husband is East Asian, and they've never seen that be normal on TV before, and that just turned everything around for me.
Because it illustrates that every story will connect with people and how important it is to tell those stories.
Yeah.
And to be a part of those stories and how special that is. And even if you are just the guy who's in a couple of scenes in a couple of episodes, like, it's impactful.
Yeah, it really
right?
Is. It goes a long way. I mean, there's that very commonly used expression, representation matters. And I think it's one of those things where it's really hard to explain to somebody else who's always felt represented and took it for granted, and then didn't even know that they're being represented. And then if there's no way to really take it away, although some people kind of feel like it's being taken away from them now, which I would just disagree with on a certain level. It's one of those things where it's like, you don't know what you had until it's gone, but also you don't know what you didn't have until you see it.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful.
I had that reaction the first time I went to go see Wonder Woman. The first 30 minutes of that film, when they're just on the island and all that stuff, I literally sat back in my chair in the theater, almost on the verge of tears.
I just got chills thinking about it.
Because I had never experienced going to a film where there were just nothing but strong women who married strength with vulnerability, and it was just who they were, and they didn't have to, like, because there was no men on the screen, it's just how that was portrayed. I didn't realize until that moment how I had actually never seen that before. And also in that moment, I went, this is what people of color must feel like when they see themselves represented. I now understand.
Sure. Oh yeah. And then the scene when she crosses no man's land, like, just tears.
That movie is so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Right.
It's just so cool. Okay, I'm gonna pull up. We have a couple of questions, and the question cards, I'm just gonna see if any of these if we've answered most of them. We've answered most of these. Some of them are like, Eddie or Prashant. Oh, my friend Gary asks, can we talk about Eddie's idea of making choices, quote unquote choices, whether in auditions or on the set? And just really quickly, because we only have a couple minutes, and I want to be able to wrap it up and give people like where they can find you and stuff. So
I think first and foremost, your choices have to serve the story and have to enhance what you're doing to tell the story. And I think that it also has to affect the other character. And depending on the time and place and the project that you're doing, you'll have more or less leeway for you to make your own choices that really highlight you. Sometimes you'll make a choice in an audition where it's really highlighting you, but it's too distracting from what's being told in the story. So that's why a lot of co-star auditioners are getting told, just say the words, because they're taking too much space and too much scenery.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you have to deliver certain pieces of information.
Yeah.
So you have to, again, see where you fit in the story and then make your choices. And then it's just a time and experience thing. The more time you spend, especially for comedy, you'll find where you can be like, oh, well, that joke, that little weird thing that I did in this thing didn't work that time. I wonder if it fits here.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take a risk and it's a gamble and it pays off. Other times, because you're more experienced, you know, okay, I know this is going to work here. I know I can ad lib and rewrite this little line and make this choice and add a little goofy thing with my phone that's already sitting in my pocket, not a big prop that came out of nowhere, and then nail that joke that I'm pretty confident that no other actor is going to do in that film.
Oh, he's buffering. Oh no.
Oh no, you're buffering too. There, I got you back. I got you back.
Cool. All right, so I just want to say we didn't even get to I wanted to ask you about your fitness regimen because you guys.
You should exercise.
Great advice.
Move around. All right.
Move
So
around.
very quickly, I just think that it's not always about building the biggest muscles. I think it's really about circulating the blood flow and doing movements that are not just making you strong or making you feel like crap and beating you down. It's also important to just move around and work the secondary stabilizer muscles that we need, just to keep your instrument functional. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to be a certain size or look a certain way, but everyone should be a healthier, fitter version of whatever they are.
Yeah. And I just say that I like to think of you as a ninja actor because of all the amazing physical feats you can do. I've seen the videos and your posts and stuff, and I'm just like, how is he doing that? I don't understand. All right, so we've got about a minute left before it's about to kick us off at the hour.
Cool.
So if people want to connect with you, if they want to find you, what's the best way? Where do you prefer people to follow you and do that?
My Twitter and Instagram handles are Eddie Liu.
And that's that.
Yeah, I'm on there. Yeah,
Cool.
and that's that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I hope that I just know that, especially on the momentum of this project, I think you're just gonna totally kill it once the industry gets back into production. I just feel it. So thank you so much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. It was so good to see you.
Thank you for having me, and everybody watching. Thank you so much for watching the show. I really appreciate the feedback and the love, and to all of us, we didn't expect this. That's why we're so overwhelmed. We're just shocked and just so blown away and grateful. Thank you, everybody.
And Adam, your friend Adam, I was DMing with him. He's like, hi.
Yeah, it's my buddy Adam. Yep.
Yay.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us from all over the world. I know we have